Jason and the Argonauts looks like a simple 1960s adventure movie, but behind the myth, the production was absolute chaos. Homemade props, coastal superstitions, real fishermen as actors, and a visual effects legend animating monsters one frame at a time. This film was held together by pure creativity and insanity. Every creature, every shot, every strange decision hides a story. Some are funny, some are unbelievable, and some feel like the kind of filmmaking that could only happen in the 60s. So let's crack open the Golden Fleece and dive into the madness behind the magic. These are 16 weird facts about Jason and the Argonauts, 1963, the movie that turned a myth into movie history. Number 16. The Golden Fleece was literally just painted sheepskin. The legendary Golden Fleece, the magical treasure Jason risked everything to find, wasn't a priceless prop or a complex movie creation. It was an ordinary sheepskin the crew bought locally and covered in layers of metallic gold paint until it shimmered under studio lights. No special effects, no Hollywood tricks, just a farm animal's hide turned into movie history. But that simplicity actually made it perfect. Under the blazing Mediterranean sun and the film's warm color palette, the metallic paint caught the light beautifully, giving the fleece an otherworldly glow that felt ancient and mythical. It's one of those great 1960s filmmaking moments when a small, low-budget solution ended up looking more magical than anything expensive. Sometimes the simplest movie props become the most iconic. Number 15. Greece was rejected for being too bleak. You'd think a movie set in ancient Greece would, well, film in Greece. But when the production team arrived to scout locations, they were shocked. The landscapes looked worn, gray, and nothing like the vibrant, mythic world they imagined. Their verdict? Too bleak. So the crew abandoned Greece entirely and moved the whole shoot to southern Italy, where they found golden beaches, dramatic cliffs, and sunlit coastlines that looked far more legendary on camera. It's ironic. One of the most famous Greek myths ever filmed didn't use a single real Greek location. Instead, Italy became ancient Greece, proving once again that movie magic sometimes starts with simply finding the right view. Number 14. Italian fishermen became the Argonauts. When the production arrived in southern Italy, they quickly realized something. No Hollywood actor could fake the look and physicality of a real sailor. So instead of casting extra performers, the crew walked down to the local docks and literally hired Italian fishermen to play the Argonaut. These men had the real muscle, the sunburned skin, the rough hands, and the natural rhythm of people who spent their lives rowing and hauling nets. They didn't need direction on how to handle the oars. They instinctively moved in sync, giving the Argos scenes a realism the filmmakers never expected. It's one of those rare moments where authenticity comes from necessity. A low-budget solution turned into a perfect creative choice. And these fishermen, who likely had no idea their work would be remembered 60 years later, helped bring Jason's legendary crew to life in a way no trained actors could match. Number 13. Medea's purple sweater offended the locals. During filming in a small Italian coastal village, actress Nancy Kovac, who played Medea, wore a simple purple sweater between takes to stay warm. What the crew didn't know was that in this region, purple wasn't just a color. It was a symbol of death. To the locals, seeing someone dressed in purple meant mourning, tragedy, or even bad luck arriving in the community. The reaction was immediate. Villagers whispered, stared, and some even confronted members of the production, worried that the film crew was disrespecting their traditions or bringing unwanted omens. The tension grew enough that producers had to step in, explain the misunderstanding, and assure everyone that no offense was intended. All from a single sweater, a tiny detail that nearly created a cultural standoff on set. It's one of those strange movie moments where mythology wasn't the problem, real-world superstition was. Number 12. A modern ship accidentally sailed into a shot. While filming along the coast of southern Italy, the crew set up a wide, beautiful shot meant to capture the Argo sailing through a pristine ancient world. Everything was perfect until a modern ship suddenly drifted right into the background, completely ruining the illusion of myth and history the filmmakers had worked so hard to create. The crew panicked. Someone reportedly yelled, "Get that ship out of here! You're in the wrong century!" But there was nothing they could do except wait as the vessel slowly passed, forcing them to reset the entire setup. It was a reminder that filming a fantasy epic in real, uncontrolled locations came with surprises, some hilarious, some frustrating, and often both at once. It's the kind of behind-the-scenes chaos that never shows up on screen, but always tests everyone's patience. Number 11. Bernard Herrmann scored the film without ever visiting the set. Legendary composer Bernard Herrmann, the genius behind Psycho, Vertigo, and Citizen Kane, created the entire musical score for Jason and the Argonauts, without stepping foot anywhere near the production. He never saw the sets, he never met the actors, and he never watched filming in person. Instead, Herrmann worked entirely from storyboards, notes, and early edit reels mailed to him across the ocean. Yet, despite the distance, he delivered one of the most powerful fantasy scores of the era. His booming brass, rolling percussion, and haunting melodies gave weight to creatures that didn't even exist yet in final form. Harriman essentially had to imagine how Ray Harryhausen's monsters would move, roar, and attack. And somehow, his instincts were perfect. The music synced with the stop-motion sequences so well that many viewers assume composer and animator collaborated in the same room. It's a reminder that sometimes cinematic magic comes from artists working worlds apart.
We've no time for riddles and mysteries. Tell me of tonight.
Number 10. Early designs included more monsters, until the budget killed them. Before filming began, the creative team developed concept art for additional mythological creatures that never made it into the movie. Early sketches show ideas for expanded battles, alternate sea monsters, and even extra encounters meant to challenge the Argonauts on their journey. The plan was to fill the film with a whole parade of fantastical beasts, a true mythological gauntlet. But every creature meant months of stop-motion work, new models, new composites, and more shooting time. As the costs began to rise, the studio panicked. Scenes were cut, concepts were shelved, and entire monster sequences disappeared from the script before Harryhausen ever had a chance to animate them. The movie we know today is actually a scaled-down version of an even more ambitious fantasy epic that never fully materialized because the budget simply couldn't keep up. It's wild to imagine how much bigger and stranger this movie almost became.
Perhaps I can help.
Welcome to Olympus, Jason.
Number 9. Talos was originally planned to be twice as big. In early concept art, Talos wasn't just a towering bronze guardian. He was envisioned as a colossal giant, so massive he would have dwarfed the entire Argo and the cliffs around it. The original idea was to portray him as an almost mountain-sized statue brought to life, creating a sense of mythic awe that would overwhelm the heroes on sight. But that scale created a nightmare for Ray Harryhausen. The bigger Talos became, the harder it was to integrate him convincingly, with live-action footage. Matching camera angles, lighting, shadows, and even basic perspective became nearly impossible. After multiple tests and discussions, Harryhausen scaled him down significantly. Still huge, but manageable within the limits of 1960s visual effects. Even with the reduced size, Talos remains one of the most unforgettable creatures in fantasy cinema, proving that sometimes smaller actually hits harder. Before we jump into the creatures and the real chaos behind this movie, here's your quick reminder to hype this video so YouTube knows you're enjoying it. That one tap seriously boosts the channel. And if you're new here, subscribe, because the next facts get way crazier. We're about to hit the part of the list where props vanish into the ocean, monsters take months to animate, and the behind-the-scenes stories almost sound impossible. Trust me, the best stuff is coming right now. Don't miss it. Alright, let's dive back in. Number 8, the Hydra's 7 heads were 7 independent puppets. The Hydra wasn't a single model, it was 7 separate, individually controlled puppet heads, each with its own movement system and animation demands. Ray Harryhausen had to choreograph every head's attack, recoil, and expression while keeping the creature's body coordinated with the actors swinging swords at empty air. It was one of the most technically demanding monsters he ever created. Each head had its own personality. Some snapped faster, some recoiled dramatically, some twisted with snake-like hesitation. Harryhausen animated them frame by frame, constantly checking continuity to make sure the Hydra didn't look like a chaotic mess of moving parts. Matching the timing of the actors' sword strikes with the animated reactions meant rewatching the footage dozens of times, and sometimes reshooting elements entirely. In the end, the Hydra wasn't just a monster. It was a 7-headed nightmare of patience, precision, and pure craftsmanship. Number 7. Harryhausen created nearly all the monster animation by himself. While modern fantasy films rely on massive VFX teams, Jason and the Argonauts was essentially a one-man operation when it came to its creatures. Ray Harryhausen personally animated every monster, every swing, every blink, every footstep, frame by frame, with no assistants doing the hard work for him. If a creature moved on screen, it was because Harryhausen touched it hundreds, sometimes thousands of times. This meant he had to juggle everything: lighting, miniature sets, timing for actor interactions, and the brutal precision of stop motion. If something didn't match the live-action plate, he had to troubleshoot it alone. And because every shot was built in tiny increments, the work stretched on for months at a time, with progress sometimes measured in seconds of usable footage per week. It's a staggering reminder that one man's hands and one man's patience created some of the most iconic monsters in movie history.
What in the name of the gods are they?
Number 6. A single continuity mistake could destroy months of animation. Stop motion and live action had to match perfectly in this film. If an actor's hand shifted slightly between takes, if a shadow moved, If a prop wasn't in the exact same place, Harryhausen's carefully animated monster would no longer line up with the footage. And because his animation could take weeks or months to complete, even the smallest continuity slip in the live-action material meant one thing: start over. This created an intense pressure on set. Actors had to repeat movements with near-mechanical precision. Camera crews had to lock down every angle, and props couldn't shift even a millimeter. Harryhausen often rechecked the plates dozens of times before committing to a frame, terrified that an unnoticed mismatch would waste months of work. And when continuity did fail, which happened more than once, he had no choice but to reanimate entire sequences from scratch. It's the kind of behind-the-scenes nightmare that makes you appreciate every second of those monster scenes. Number 5. Talos was designed with empty eye sockets for maximum creep factor. Talos, the towering bronze guardian, could have easily been given glowing eyes, carved pupils, or some kind of facial expression. But Harryhausen made a bold choice. No eyes at all. Just hollow, empty sockets staring into nothing. He believed that giving Talos human-like features would make him less threatening, but removing them altogether would make him feel ancient, unreadable, and deeply unsettling. Animating a creature with no eyes meant the terror had to come from its movement. Talos turned slowly, mechanically, as if awakening from centuries of sleep. His head tilt, the stiffness in his limbs, the delayed reaction. All were deliberate choices Harryhausen made to give the statue a sense of weight and inevitability. The emptiness of his gaze forces the audience to imagine what's going on behind that lifeless face, which only amplifies the dread. It's a perfect example of how sometimes the scariest creatures are the ones that never look directly at you, because they don't have to.
Good appetite.
Number 4. Hera was originally meant to appear much more in the film. In early versions of the script, Hera wasn't just a background presence, she was designed to be a key guiding force throughout Jason's entire journey. The writers planned for her to show up repeatedly, offering warnings, clues, and direct supernatural intervention. The idea was to portray her almost like a celestial mentor, shaping the Argonauts' fate from above. But as production costs rose and the effects workload spiraled, the filmmakers were forced to cut her screen time drastically. Elaborate scenes featuring Hera's interactions, magical displays, and dialogue-heavy mythological moments were removed to tighten the pacing and stay within budget. What survived was the streamlined version we know today. The rule of 5 times you may ask me for help, a clever narrative shortcut used to reduce the number of costly appearances the goddess would need. It's wild to think the movie almost had a much bigger divine presence guiding the adventure, before budget reality stepped in.
Jason dared to speak of the end of the gods, and yet you let him live.
If I were to punish every blasphemy, I'd soon lose all loyalty and respect.
You are the god of many men.
Number 3. The Hydra and skeleton props were thrown into the sea and never recovered. At the end of filming, the production needed shots of defeated creatures falling into the water, specifically the Hydra and the skeleton warriors. Instead of building special rigs or using camera tricks, the team took the actual stop-motion models Harryhausen had animated for months and threw them off a cliff into the Italian Sea to capture the splash and sinking on camera. Once they hit the water, the props disappeared instantly. The plaster skeletons broke apart as they fell, sinking into the depths, while the Hydra pieces drifted away and vanished beneath the waves. No divers, no retrieval team. The models were simply gone. These were irreplaceable creations Harryhausen had poured weeks of work into. Yet the production sacrificed them because the shot demanded it. Somewhere off the coast of Palinuro, the remnants of those iconic movie monsters are still out there. Tiny pieces of cinematic history resting on the ocean floor. Number 2. The skeleton battle took 4 months for just 3 minutes of footage. The legendary skeleton fight, one of the most iconic stop-motion sequences ever filmed, consumed nearly 4 months of Ray Harryhausen's life. Every skeleton had to move independently, swing a sword, react to hits, and sync perfectly with actors who were essentially fighting empty air. Harryhausen sometimes completed only a few seconds of animation per week, and on bad days, only a single usable shot. To make the scene believable, he studied swordplay frame by frame, timed each skeleton's movement to match the actor's strikes, and carefully layered multiple exposures so that live action and animation blended seamlessly. Any mistake, a mismatched shadow, a misplaced limb, a jump in positioning, meant the shot had to be redone, and the brutal process repeated. The technical precision required was so intense that even Harryhausen later admitted it pushed him to his creative limit. But the payoff was historic. Those 3 minutes didn't just define the movie, they became a benchmark for fantasy filmmaking and inspired generations of special effects artists. Number 1. Ray Harryhausen. Considered this film his greatest masterpiece. Ray Harryhausen worked on countless fantasy classics, from The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad to Clash of the Titans, but when people asked him which film he was proudest of, he always pointed to Jason and the Argonauts. Not because it was the biggest or the most profitable, but because it represented the purest expression of his imagination and craftsmanship. This was the movie where everything came together. Talos' haunting presence, the Hydra's snarling heads, the Harpies' eerie attacks, and of course, the skeleton battle that pushed stop-motion animation to its breaking point. Harryhausen wasn't just animating monsters, he was choreographing performances, building personalities, and creating a visual language that felt mythic, tactile, and alive. For him, Jason and the Argonauts was the moment where his art became legend, and decades later, that legacy still stands. Among fans, filmmakers, and animators, this film remains the crown jewel of his incredible career. For a movie made in 1963, Jason and the Argonauts wasn't just ambitious, it was outrageous. Everything about it pushed the limits of what filmmakers thought was possible. Real fishermen standing in for ancient heroes, creatures animated one agonizing frame at a time, props sacrificed to the ocean, and a stop-motion artist who poured nearly 2 years of his life into crafting a world that still feels magical today. And that's why this film endures. It's not just a retelling of a Greek myth. It's a monument to creativity, stubbornness, and pure cinematic insanity. Every monster, every illusion, every impossible shot came from people who were determined to make something unforgettable, even if it meant bending reality to do it. If you enjoyed uncovering the wild stories behind this classic, make sure to subscribe and hype the video. It tells YouTube to keep pushing this content so we can keep exploring the weirdest corners of movie history together.